And welcome to Generation Movie New Release Friday. My name is JW Colwell. Thank you very much for joining me. I appreciate you doing so if you are. We are a network of creative people that have gotten together and try to unite creatives. We have all kinds of great shows for the network, including this new one, but these are the other shows. We do Generation Movie, which is every Monday night at 9 p.m. That's our movie history show. We do Loud Nerdy on Tuesday nights, which is our more of a pop culture show. I host both of those. And we do all kinds of things on Loud Nerdy. We do toys, comics, video games, movies, television, wrestling sometimes, all kinds of stuff. Symbolistic Cynicism is one of our best interview shows where we have Gabe who goes in and meets some of the leading industry people, like from somebody who starred in a major horror film to somebody who scored a horror musical. All great guests, amazing, and that's on Wednesday nights at 10. And then Technical Defects is Riot Ryan West and Joe Ridgely. Again, an eclectic group. It's toys, games, movies, pop culture, technology as well, where they look at better ways to use technology for us instead of against us. All of those things are on our network and they're incredible. Please join us if you like what you see today, like and subscribe. Today we're going to be looking at two movies. First movie we're going to be looking at is Backrooms, which is the new movie from Kane Parsons, who is the young 19-year-old film director that is taking the world by storm with his intricate backstory that's on YouTube. So he's another one of these filmmakers like Markiplier and Curry Barker who have come out of nowhere. Although most people who pay attention to the online stuff would say they're not out of nowhere. We're going to be reviewing Backrooms first. And then we're also going to take a look at Pressure, the World War II movie starring Brendan Fraser and Andrew Scott and Carrie Condon and Chris Messina and Damian Lewis, that deals with Eisenhower and D-Day and the behind-the-scenes goings-on of what happened when a meteorologist said you can't do D-Day on a certain day. You need to do it a different day. So it's about a meteorologist and Eisenhower. Great stuff. But we are going to start with Backrooms today. That's the movie I think everybody's going to be buzzing about this weekend. Backrooms, of course, is the film based on Kane Parsons. Basically, it's his feature-length directorial debut. It's written by Rin Sodik. Parsons actually came up with a web series, and basically he came up with the whole Backrooms creepypasta that has appeared all around the web, all over the internet. The film stars Chiwetel Ejiofor as Clark, a furniture store owner. And basically, it deals with Clark as he spirals out of control after the breakup of his marriage. He owns a furniture store, and in this furniture store, he finds a gateway, a door to a series of rooms and places deep beneath the furniture store. And it's these dead spaces that are inherent to the narrative and to the movie. But basically it follows Clark's descent into madness, and also the idea that he's working with this therapist who's trying to get him to figure things out for himself. And she's, a little bit, trying to get him to accept personal responsibility for the issues and problems and concepts that are not going well in his life. And he's an angry person, and he just has all kinds of stuff building up inside of him. Why he hates his wife, why his wife doesn't deserve the house she lives in, why he's stuck at this furniture store that sells, it's a junky furniture store that sells junky furniture. All of those things play out as Clark discovers the madness underneath his furniture store, and basically follows as we go into these rooms. Clark, of course, starts drawing maps, starts coming up with things. why they're there, how they're there. Nobody understands. And of course, a lot of the lore, if you go in blind, it is an eerie psychological horror film where clearly a drunk person is going on a bender and also going off the deep end. And you don't know, like, if these eerie, lonely places are part of Clark. Are they part of the world? Are they part? It's all part of the lore. Now, I am of a different generation for horror films. This movie is clearly not for me, but it is, in the grand scheme of things, this next generation of horror films and horror film directors and writers that are based on YouTube projects, based on younger people and what their problems, issues are. We see that with Iron Lung, Markiplier, loneliness. We see that with obsession, the awkwardness of dealing with the opposite sex. We see it here with trying to come to grips with the sheer volume of psychoanalysis in the world, also the sheer volume of emptiness, loneliness, all these things I'm working for not actually meaning anything, right? And for a 19-year-old to have his finger on the pulse of this type of horror, these space, empty space horror film kind of things, it's an amazing accomplishment for a 19-year-old. Now, I don't know if it's going to hit for everybody. I think one of the things that had me a little bit aloof about it is eerie. It is super, super creepy and cool. You have no idea what's going on, how it got there, why it's there, how it's, and that's all part of the lore. And this kid has been building up this lore for like 5, 6, 7 years. So people who were at the theater that I saw it with, who were enveloped in the lore, had already had shirts. They were really nice people who are like deeply into this lore already, were answering questions for me. And I consider myself a pretty savvy horror movie person. I've seen a lot of horror movies. I love horror. It's probably my favorite genre. And like I said, it's got a lot of good things going on. The creatures that are involved in this world are eerie and creepy. Of course, there's at some point the psychiatrist enters the doorway and becomes part of the backrooms, and she eventually meets Clark in a bad place. And so is it eerie? Is it fun? Yes. Do you need to know the lore? Maybe it would be better if you knew the lore. Like, coming out of the theater, I was talking to some people and they're like, well, do you know about the earthquakes that happened in 1989 in San Francisco? I'm like, yes, because I like everybody my age was watching the World Series when against the A's and the Giants, where the World Series was held up because there was structural damage to Candlestick Park. So immediately it resonated with me, but I didn't know that lore. And basically what the kid was saying was the company that is in at the beginning and end of the movie had something to do with causing the earthquake because of them discovering all of this eerie back room space underneath everything, where basically a copy of a copy of a copy of a copy exists. So I don't think I understand it. I understand the movie, but I don't think I understand. It didn't hit hard for me because I'm not knee deep in the lore. And one of the things I think is different from horror films right now is all of these guys, Markiplier, Curry Barker, Kane Parsons, are all making their movies based on their lore that people have been following since they were younger. Reading creepypasta, reading scary stories. And all of that lore has been built out. And now what's happening is Hollywood is coming in and saying, you're our people. You're our guys. We want to take your ideas and your movie and let you make your movies. Parsons wasn't supposed to direct this movie. But like I said, for a movie directed by a 19-year-old, it is very accomplished. It's well done. The horror is effective. It's what it's supposed to be with regards to horror, and I don't think it's as good as Obsession, but it's still very good and well done. I do see a comment. Hi, how you doing? Sorry I didn't get to you. We appreciate you. Thank you for coming. But yeah, so it is, I think what's happening with horror right now is not only are we getting elevated horror from A24 and elevated horror from some of these other studios like Focus, but I think what's now happening is Hollywood is noticing all of these online YouTube channels or YouTube, stories within Creepypasta, and they're getting mined. Now, the great thing about it is that it kind of makes it a democratic, filmmaking, because these people, as long as these people get to take their lore and put it in a film, and they're talented, they seem to be very talented. Like I said, this kid's 19. Kane Parsons is 19 years old, and he's directing his first feature film with a budget of about $10 million. So, like I said, I think he's very lucky. He also has, he has Chiwetel Ejiofor, he has Renee Ranciv, Mark Duplass, Lukita Maxwell from Shrinking. So he has a really talented cast, and he has a decent sized budget, and he just makes, I think he makes his version of it. Doesn't expand. I don't think it expands the lore. It just kind of like focuses on one person within these eerie back rooms where anything is possible, where maybe copies of ourselves exist, and things in the last half get a little crazy. But again, it's claustrophobic. It's even though it's wide open spaces, it's very claustrophobic. The film is exceptionally well done, well acted. Again, having aces like Mark Duplass, who I was telling some of the kids coming out of the movie, if you haven't seen Creep or the Creep tapes on Shudder, by all means see Creep, and you'll understand why Mark Duplass showing up in this movie is really great. He plays one of the scientists that's dealing with it, or maybe helping with the discovery of what is happening with these dead spaces that are filling up with copies of people, like copies of things, places, people, things. I don't know enough about the lore to comment on whether or not the movie expands lore. What I can say is that the movie works as a tense psychological horror film. You have a really great protagonist who is like getting beaten down by life. He hates, people. He hates his job. He drinks to get over it. He lives in this abandoned furniture store, and all of the agita in his life creates conflict and chaos. And then when he finally gets sucked into the back rooms, these dead spaces where maybe he can create a life where he's in control, it becomes a tense. I don't think it's terrifying. I wasn't scared, but it is tense and eerie, and you don't know what's coming around the corner, or what's, something that's off in the distance. You don't know exactly what it is. Is it a horror film for Gen Xers and Boomers, everybody who's a little bit older? I don't know. I think most older folks might come out of the movie going, I don't know what the fuck's happening, as opposed to Obsession, where it's a take on a classic horror monkey paw story. This is a kid, 19 years old, who's actually taking his lore, putting it into a movie with and kind of centralizing and adapting it into a form of a movie where it's not necessarily to expand the lore. it's kind of just to be I want to say like a test concept. Like, because I feel like the way this movie is situated, you can have 3, 4, 5 backrooms movies, each with different actors, each with different stories to tell, all dealing with the backrooms, but maybe each backroom and each series of corridors and series of places are different based on the protagonist, based on, not a drunk guy who owns a furniture store, but maybe a child who lost their parent, or maybe somebody dealing with drug addiction, or like, I feel like it's a test of concept to see what this kid can do, and it's spectacular what he does with the cinematography, the music. He is responsible for almost everything in the movie. He's like, he did the music with Edo Van Bremen. He's done the music. He's written. He didn't write. It's based on his stuff. He directed it. It's really quite an achievement for a 19-year-old. That I think, instead of talking about how it, maybe it disappoints people in my generation, maybe we should be talking about what an achievement it is for a 19-year-old to adapt something so adeptly that we look at it and just marvel at not knowing any of the lore. I will say I came out of the movie last night not ready to decide whether or not I want to dive, head first into the lore. I think I might. Just because I think there apparently are so many stories to tell here. Now, the other question for all of these young directors like Markiplier, like Curry Barker, like Kane Parsons, the big question is going to be, can they only do their own stuff, or can they expand out? Do they get chances at franchise IP? Can they do it on a regular basis with stuff that's not established? Like, can Kane Parsons direct a horror film or direct any movie that doesn't have years of his lore backed up, where that he knows everything, and be able to kind of jump in and just be able to do it? I'm intrigued to see. I think Backrooms is not necessarily for me or my generation, but it is a marvelous film debut, and it is something where you look at it and you realize the kid is working very hard, and he understands how to shoot how to make it look good, how to get tension from his face, the actors' faces, how to get tension by having something out of screen or out of focus in the foreground. He's very good at that, and I think it bodes well for him as a filmmaker. I wasn't scared though, so I don't know. I'm not going to say it's a mixed review. It's not a mixed review. I think it's a winning psychological horror film. I think if you know the lore, you will be better off, and you might enjoy it more. But it is something so impressive that a 19-year-old has taken a movie and gotten a $10 million budget and steered it, and has all this talent around him that are singing his praises right now. Mark Duplass is not somebody that doesn't know a lot about filmmaking, and he said the kid's really great. And Chiwetel Ejiofor is fantastic in the movie. He is a very good as Clark. So take that with a grain of salt. You might go in and not like it. I don't necessarily think it's something that has, and my a good friend pointed this out, it doesn't have a lot of rules. It doesn't focus on the rules. It doesn't have a lot of lore unless you already know the lore. And that is, I think, a minor problem. But for the most part, it does what it sets out to do. It puts you in scary places. And like I said, it becomes tense. It gets very, like, it becomes engulfing, like in this scene here where the walls seem to be closing in. and she just, and then of course it kind of ends it ends, as you would expect, with questions and issues that expands the war. So, Kane Parsons Backrooms is a triumph of indie budget, horror movie budget filmmaking, and it is an astounding piece for a 19-year-old to have his directorial debut and be able to seem so comfortable behind the camera. Okay. The other movie, there are several movies open this week, but the other movie I chose to go to see and we're going to talk about is this movie called Pressure. And Pressure is a twofold thing in this movie. And basically, this follows Andrew Scott. He plays a captain in the Royal Navy, for England, who is basically as it is said in the film, is Winston Churchill's. He feels is the best meteorologist that England has. Stagg comes to work for General Ike Eisenhower 72 hours before the D-Day invasion is scheduled to happen on June 5th. Now, if you hear that number, June 5th, and it doesn't register because D-Day is June 6th, that is because Stagg, in looking at everything and trying to figure everything out, basically says to Eisenhower, there are 3 storms in the Atlantic that are going to hit each other and be almost, it will wash away D-Day. It will essentially not allow our troops to land at Normandy, at all the other beaches, Omaha Beach, all the other beaches, and go after the Germans in Europe. So the pressure in the movie is not only on Stagg, who's being second guessed by Chris Messina's Eichel, meteorologist that it goes by, not necessarily by weather conditions, barometric pressure, or anything like that. He goes by the past. This happened on this day in the past. This day after that day in the past was this, and I can match up these to match this. And so Stagg is fighting the consistent pressure from this person who is saying everything's going to be great. You should send everybody. Go, go, go. He's facing the pressure from him. He's facing the pressure from Eisenhower, who wants certainty. Eisenhower, of course, is played by Brendan Fraser. He's very good. It continues his streak of very smart, very incredible choices. And the pressure Eisenhower is under here is, during World War II, he was a general and he was in charge of the Allied forces, but he had never served in the military. So there are people within, including one played by Damian Lewis, who basically are second guessing Eisenhower. And they're also like, they realize he doesn't have the military experience. Kerry Condon plays like the general's aide, who is basically a go-between and is the person that has to deal with all the male egos swirling around her. Kerry Condon, if you haven't seen her work in The Banshees of Inisherin, she's really great here. She is Eisenhower's second, right hand, and she basically she plays Kay Summersby. She basically is taking everything swirling around Eisenhower and enabling him to make good decisions by putting people around him. So the pressure is on Eisenhower, the pressure is on Stagg. There's barometric pressure that is discussed in the movie. It's a really fascinating, very short. It's only an hour and 40 minutes. And it's kind of like, I think it's based on one quote where basically Eisenhower, after World War II, they asked him a question like, what gave the Allied troops, what's one thing that that the Allied troops had that were better than the Germans, because the Germans had better air power, had more men, had, all these different things. And Eisenhower's quote is, "We had better meteorologists." And I think that's where, and the movie started out as a stage play as well by David Haig. So it's a really tense, crisp, clean, very short, hour 45-minute movie where they basically, their Stag comes in, he fights with Messina. He doesn't fight with Eisenhower, but Eisenhower, has been with Messina, and basically Messina is taken all of the history he has with Eisenhower, and basically has, parlayed it into being a person that is really good. He thinks he's really good at his job until he meets Stag. Andrew Scott is fantastic. He is so good in this movie. He's low key. He's also abrasive. He's awkward in social settings. He also is a person that is exquisitely gifted in looking at all pieces of a situation. And, he is the opposite of Messina's character. And basically he is, kind of, he basically says at one point, "I know you people don't like me. I know that I've, that I rub some people the wrong way." And, and he does, but he's smart and he knows what he's looking for. He knows what is going to save lives. And that's the only thing. And, you get great shots like this. This is from the people that did The Darkest Hour. But it is not long. It is well done. It is crisp, effective. It is a story within the giant story of World War II, and not necessarily, an epic retelling of an event. It's more the behind the scenes of something that happened at a major event that you may have never heard about. And it's absolutely fascinating. Great acting, well done, tense, short, sweet, and just very good acting. Brendan Fraser as Eisenhower continues his really great streak of picking not just movies that get him work, but movies that give him something to chew on. And this Eisenhower is before he's become the Dwight D. Eisenhower that we know as president. He's nervous. He knows that people are looking at him. He knows that he doesn't have military experience. And it's a really great performance. It's like I said, it's a very good movie. It's, with the D-Day invasion, the 80th anniversary coming up. I think it's the 80th anniversary, 1946. It's either 80th or 81st anniversary coming up on June 6th. We know exactly where the movie's going, but the talented filmmakers that make it, it's tense, it's well done, and it hinges on whether you believe in the idea of somebody having expertise in a particular school of thought. And it's really fantastic. Let's see, we got a comments. Hello. Hey, how we doing? Good to see you. Thank you for joining us. We appreciate it. From around the world, apparently. Awesome. But Pressure is really well done. And like I said, like sometimes these historical epics get very long in the tooth. They get very long-winded. This one is not. This one is about a particular moment at a particular event and how it shaped the people involved in the event. And like I said, the key is Andrew Scott. If you like Andrew Scott, his Stag is really quite good. He's quiet and efficient and smart. And he has an expertise in this meteorology, and he comes up against the brash American played by Chris Messina, who doesn't have any expertise. And you could view it as like a commentary on the world we're in right now that we're dealing with. the idea that we've gotten rid of expertise and we're looking for brash and loud, and not necessarily the most brash and the most loud are people that are the experts in their field. And it's a really good movie. It's very well done. And with the anniversary of D-Day coming up, it's a perfect opportunity to go see it and enjoy it. Pressure from all sides, barometric pressure on Eisenhower, pressure on Stagg. Pressure builds, and it's a really great kind of slice of the behind the scenes of an event, a major event in human history, which is D-Day, one of the greatest military engagements in the history of the Western world when we took on the Nazi powers. So, if you like World War II movies, it's short on like a lot of action. It's more battles, ego battles between various people, and with Kerry Condon kind of running, helping Ike make good decisions or get over some decisions he's made, teaching Stagg the ropes on how to actually deal with people as opposed to kind of just pushing everybody away and making them feel stupid. It's a very good film, and you could do a lot worse if you're into World War II, or if you're looking for a movie maybe to take your dad to. That's not a Pixar movie that's coming out in a couple weeks, Toy Story 5. It might be a great movie to take your dad to. So those are the movies for New Release Friday for May 29th. We have Pressure, very excellent World War II drama, starring Brendan Fraser and Andrew Scott, and also Kerry Condon and Chris Messina and Damian Lewis from Billions. Excellent, well done, slice of a particular moment of a major event. Really interesting. And short, economy, like an economy of motion movie. We also have Backrooms, which is the 19-year-old Kane Parsons directorial debut, dealing with empty spaces, dead spaces in the world, what gets created there, the horror that comes from there, and what people are dealing with, when they don't meet their view of what's going to happen to them in society. Clark, played by Chiwetel Ejiofor, is a sad character that finds a home in these dead, eerie, empty spaces. And, it might be a place for you as well. Not necessarily, it is definitely a part of the new breed of horror filmmaking that started this year with Markiplier and Iron Lung, continued with Curry Barker and Obsession, and now Kane Parsons takes his YouTube and creepypasta stories and lore behind the Backrooms into the foreground of horror cinema, and it's just a knockout of a debut for a 19-year-old kid who has a $10 million budget. And I don't know that expands lore because I don't know enough about the lore, but I think people if you know about the lore, I think the movie will stand out for you as something important to you. If not, it is really just a tense, eerie, psychological horror film that doesn't necessarily hit all of the scary buttons like Obsession did, or maybe even a lesser film like Passenger might. Well, hopefully you liked what you heard, and join us next week. We got big movies coming out next week, including Masters of the Universe. Scary Movie returns to theaters. We'll be talking about both of those next week. If you like and subscribe, we are the Indie Escape Network, where Creatives Unite. We do live streaming. We also are now available on all the audio podcast places you can: iHeartRadio, Spotify, Apple Podcasts. Thank you for joining me on a New Release Friday. We will see everybody Monday. Monday, where we will be doing on Generation Movie, we will be doing the Guns of Navarone. as we start our film, our film list of movies that your dad would really love, or your dad loved. The Guns of Navarone is a fantastic. Gregory Peck, David Niven, Anthony Quinn, World War II Men on a Mission story, and we're gonna have a few of them. But next week is Guns of Navarone and Generation Movie live at 9 p.m. on Monday, June 1st. Thank you for joining me for New Release Friday. Everybody have a great weekend. Go see a movie. Take care. Bye.